Most of the year's biggest box office bombs dropped in March. It was a disastrous month for the theaters. Literally zero hits, just flop after flop, including a few that were flat out idiotic. Right now, Minecraft is pulling insane numbers and might save theaters from total collapse, but March was a total wipeout. So let's get into it. These are the biggest, dumbest, and sometimes weirdly underrated box office bombs of March 2025. Here's one that came and went so fast, most people didn't even know it existed. In the Lost Lands is the latest bomb from Paul Anderson, and it somehow managed to lose over $50 million while starring Milla Jovovich and Dave Bautista. The film got a wide release in March, and no one showed up. The whole thing is based on a George Martin short story, so you'd think there'd be some buzz. But nope. Even with a fantasy plot about a witch and a warrior hunting down a werewolf spell in some desolate wasteland, this one landed with a total thud. It sat in development hell for years. At one point, Keanu Reeves and Nicolas Cage were both offered roles. That obviously didn't happen. Instead, what we got was a visual effects-heavy mess with more digital actors than real ones. First time that's ever happened. Nobody gave a shit, though. Audiences ignored it completely. In Canada, it didn't even get a theatrical release. Fandango started giving away free tickets. Not buy one, get one, just plain free. And theaters still couldn't fill seats. It's obvious this thing was designed to flop theatrically just to push VOD sales, like every other vertical entertainment release. Still, it's embarrassing. $3 million back on a $55 million budget. That's not a stumble. That's a full-on faceplant. George Martin said he liked the adaptation, though. Anderson screened it for him personally in New Mexico, and Martin told him it captured his voice better than any other adaptation had. That's gotta be nice to hear, even if the film tanked. This is a sci-fi thriller starring Elizabeth Olsen, Alicia Vikander, and Himesh Patel, and yet somehow it earned less than $300,000 at the box office. The story's got a strong premise, a sharp look, and some genuinely impressive performances. Vikander especially. She plays multiple versions of the same character. Easily one of the riskiest roles she's ever taken. She even called it a leap of faith. The film dives into dark, bleak territory. And yeah, it's pretty depressing. Definitely not crowd-pleasing. But still, it should have made something. This is the kind of movie people will probably call a hidden gem 5 years from now. But in March, it just disappeared. The problem was distribution. Magnolia barely promoted it. Limited theatrical rollout. Got pirated almost immediately. It didn't stand a chance. Another victim of the changing movie-watching habits, people aren't showing up for mid-budget indies unless there's massive buzz behind them. Director said it played really well at festivals, and she was proud of how it made audiences reflect. And honestly, fair enough. But commercially, it bombed. No other way to put it. Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag had all the pieces. Michael Fassbender, Cate Blanchett, Pierce Brosnan, Naomi Harris, and a smart spy thriller script from David Koepp, who literally consulted with real intelligence agents to write it. The movie dropped mid-March, earned some solid reviews, sat at 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, and still couldn't pull in audiences. In just 17 days, the studio gave up and dumped it onto VOD. It's not even a bad film. It's slick, entertaining, tight runtime. 93 minutes, in and out. Fassbender plays a British spy whose wife, played by Blanchett, might be a traitor. It's got twists, charm, great dialogue, and somehow it still flopped. Soderbergh said he made it to prove that grown-up, mid-budget movies can work in theaters, that there's still room for something between 5 million indies and 250 million CGI fests. He wasn't even doing it for himself. He wanted it to open the door for other filmmakers. The door is still very much closed. Black Bag made about $35 million on a $60 million budget, and that number's still crawling. It might break even in the long run thanks to streaming. But theatrically, it's another reminder that even with great talent, adult thrillers are still a tough sell right now. A24 made a movie where Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega hit a unicorn with their car, and yes, that is the actual plot. Somewhere between Harry and the Hendersons and Jurassic Park, only this time with a dead mythical creature and a billionaire trying to milk it for magical healing powers. You'd think a dark comedy with Paul Rudd and the queen of Gen Z horror would be a slam dunk. Instead, it flopped hard. The studio gave away the whole story in the trailer. Critics hated it. Audiences liked it a little more, but not enough to show up. Paul Rudd plays it weirdly quiet here, which doesn't help. Instead of his usual smart-ass charm, we get a distracted dad. Ortega's fine, but the whole thing plays like an unhinged 90s sitcom with a horror budget. The characters are straight-up caricatures, the satire hits like a hammer, and the gore's more awkward than shocking. But if you go in expecting dumb fun, it actually delivers. It's one of those so bad it's good movies. You walk out knowing it's not a great film, but you still had a good time. Unfortunately, that didn't help the numbers. Once upon a time, a Robert De Niro mob movie couldn't fail. That time is long gone. The Alto Knights, with De Niro playing two real-life gangsters, Frank Costello and Vito Genovese, came and went like a fart in the wind. Written by Nicholas Pileggi, the guy behind Goodfellas and Casino, directed by Barry Levinson, and loaded with old-school mob movie cred, this thing was supposed to be Levinson's big return to studio filmmaking. Instead, it opened to $3.2 million. Worldwide, it couldn't even scrape past 10. Warner Brothers planned a theatrical release for this, even though executives already knew it had no chance. Zaslav wanted it, pushed for it, and ignored the warnings that gangster films don't pull crowds anymore. The critics hated it, 37% on Rotten Tomatoes. Some of them said the double De Niro gimmick wasn't just distracting, it was flat-out pointless. Irwin Winkler, the producer, went out swinging. He compared it to Goodfellas and said the movie would do just fine on streaming. We never did big theatrical business with Goodfellas, but we certainly did in home entertainment, DVDs in those days. I think that in the long run, the Alto Knights will have the same kind of long-range audience acceptance. This one is a movie about a reclusive rock star played by John Malkovich who suddenly decides he's dropping a new album after almost 30 years. But instead of a comeback concert or a press tour, he invites a handful of journalists to his remote compound where things get weird fast. The film premiered at Sundance and didn't exactly set the world on fire. Critics called it underwhelming, said it felt like a horror thriller built on a clever idea that never really went anywhere. Malkovich sings original songs by Nile Rodgers and The Dream, which is either intriguing or terrifying depending on how you feel about Malkovich singing anything at all. Despite Ayo Edebiri and Juliette Lewis being in the cast, the buzz out of Sundance was lukewarm at best. Reviews weren't great, so the studio gave it a quiet release and just kind of let it die. No serious marketing push, no real momentum. Mark Anthony Green, the writer-director, said he made the film for freaks and movie nerds and wanted it to challenge people. But between the half-baked celebrity satire and the weak box office, this one barely made a ripple. $2 million back on $10 million spent, buried almost as soon as it was released. This one was supposed to come out in 2023, but then everything exploded for Jonathan Majors. Assault allegations, headlines everywhere, then a conviction for reckless assault and harassment. Marvel dropped him. Disney pulled the movie from the schedule. Searchlight walked away. Eventually, Briarcliff picked it up and dumped it into theaters this March. $1 million at the box office. That's it. Majors tried to frame the film's release as some kind of redemption arc. Everybody's free to make their own decisions on their opinion of me in the movie. I would say I hope and pray you see it because there's something there that I think can generate compassion and healing for anyone who watches it in their world. But that didn't help. Nobody showed up. His letter to Kevin Feige never got a response. The trial finished him off and magazine dreams just went down with him. And here we go, the Snow White remake. A disaster so big, it's already being called one of the worst flops in Disney history. The budget ballooned way past the original $180 million estimate. Some say it even hit $300 million after reshoots, rewrites, and the dwarf controversy. Peter Dinklage criticized the portrayal of dwarves, so Disney panicked and swapped them out for CGI creatures that somehow looked even worse. Then came the Zegler problem. Rachel Zegler started doing press, called the original 1937 film weird and creepy, said the prince was a stalker, and referred to the remake as PC Snow White. Disney couldn't touch her because they were still licking their wounds from the Gina Carano lawsuit. But internally, they were furious. According to Variety, Disney sources claimed Ziegler's comments sparked online threats against Gal Gadot and forced the studio to hire extra security for her. By the end, Disney threw Ziegler under the bus. Same thing they did with Nia DaCosta after The Marvels bombed. And like that one, Snow White was already toast. The backlash, the CGI mess, the bloated budget, none of it helped. Box office numbers are stalling hard, and this thing is on track to lose hundreds of millions. On paper, Mickey 17 should have been a hit. Bong Joon-ho directing, Robert Pattinson starring, a weird sci-fi premise about a disposable clone doing dangerous jobs in space. But the math didn't work. The movie cost $118 million to make after-tax rebates. Another $80 million went into marketing, including a $4 million Super Bowl ad. And the break-even point was roughly $300 million. Critics liked it. Reviews were positive. But audiences were lukewarm, and it opened soft. Warner Brothers tried scaling back promotion near the end, probably to save face and cut losses. Still, insiders say the studio's looking at a $75 to $80 million loss just from the theatrical run. Streaming might soften the blow a little, but let's be honest, this one's not making its money back. After 18 days in theaters, it was already shuffled off to VOD,